So years ago, one of my first videos that I was making, I was with a friend and we filmed, and afterwards he said, Thomas, when you got behind that camera, you were a different person. You completely transformed. You were so focused and so different. And I didn't even realize that was happening. So that was kind of the first time in my life where I was like, wait a minute, there's something internal going on? That kind of woke me up, actually.
This is The Artful Painter, art lessons for artists, collectors, and people who love art. In this edition of The Artful Painter, I have the privilege of talking with Thomas Windsor. He is a cinematographer, a filmmaker based out of Arizona, and he is also a painter. And it's interesting to talk with him and see the overlap between the two. Filmmaking, being a cinematographer, a director of photography, that is his day job. And his secondary calling is being an artist. And he has made the resolution to paint at least one painting a week. And he's been doing that for quite some time. And he shares his experiences on a YouTube channel. He has two YouTube channels. One is about filmmaking, and that's fascinating if you want to learn about video and that sort of thing and see the work that he does. I'll provide a link in the show notes. But the other channel that he has is called Painting Therapy. And that's the one I discovered first. And it was interesting because I was watching these videos on YouTube, and you know how the algorithm works. I was watching videos about art and art history and that kind of thing. And the algorithm threw up this suggestion, Thomas Windsor, Painting Therapy. And I clicked, and I watched, and I watched, and I watched, which is exactly what YouTube wants you to do. But I'm glad I did, because I got a glimpse of a man that has a lot to say about making art, doing art. And he's very vulnerable in his discussions, and I appreciate that. You get insight into what he's thinking and how he's feeling, and that comes through in his conversations, not just through his paintings, but by what he talks about. And you'll see that in today's edition of The Artful Painter. It's a fascinating conversation. And rather than spoil everything for you, I'll tell you what we will do. Let's get right into the conversation with Thomas Windsor. My name is Carl Olson, and this is The Artful Painter. When you record your YouTube videos, what are you using to record that with?
It's a long story. I ended up buying my own cameras, even though we have our own here at the studio. Blackmagic Pocket 6Ks.
Beautiful.
Yeah, they're color science. For the cheaper cameras, I'm in love with their color. So
I actually have an old Canon 5D Mark II that I use sometimes in the studio.
That's great. That changed my life. That camera was the thing that changed my life forever. That was a big deal.
Did you get it back when it first came out?
Yeah, right. Pretty soon after it first came out. Yeah. So it was like one of the only people filming stuff that looked like a movie, you know?
Vincent Laforet. Remember that?
Yep. I went to one of his workshops. I became obsessed with him. I learned from him, yeah.
I met him at NAB one time, but that was it, yeah. I knew Philip Bloom. He was very influential.
I watched every video he made, every single one. For years.
He was good. He is good. I shouldn't say was. He is.
You know the difference? This is the difference. The cameras have gotten so good now that they all just look so similar. So you don't blow people away anymore with, they just all look good. Back then, Phil Bloom, it's like, wow, that camera, the A7S III or whatever, looked incredible.
You know, I did a podcast called it was originally called The Digital Convergence, and then I went and changed it to Artful Camera, and that's how The Artful Painter came about, because I had lost interest in talking about the gear and the techniques, and I liked the art. And so I started painting, and I figured, well, this is a good way to learn things. So Thomas, I am so happy you're joining us here on The Artful Painter. You are one of those happy accidents for me. One day going through YouTube, doom scrolling, looking for a video. Here comes Thomas Windsor. And I watched the entire video. I said, oh, man, this is great. So thank you for joining me here and humoring me for a little bit.
Oh, glad to be here. I'm excited.
You're a filmmaker. I take it that's your primary way of making a living these days?
So, yeah, I was going back far enough. I was cleaning pools, swimming pools, when I first got married young and needed to make more money. And I was going to college. I met someone, a guy who was starting a video business, and I actually, dropped out of college to work with him, and we started making TV commercials. And it became my livelihood. And so I've shot one feature film, but quite a few TV commercials over the years. It all started with I had $5,000 saved. This was before I met my friend. The first commercial I made, I just reached out to a company and I said, "Can I make you a TV commercial?" So, and they said, "Sure, but we're not going to pay you." So I just did it all and hired the actual big crews in Arizona that film real TV commercials, and I was the director, and it looked like a TV commercial. And so from that day on out, I was in charge of, sets and stuff. Filming all of those years, making all of those ads on the fly, it was honing my artistic skills without me realizing it. It was helping me become a better painter, even though I wasn't painting during all those years.
Well, you learn about light, composition, telling a story. Even in a single frame, you can tell a story. So it's a valuable background. I never expected this until we come together online here, that you had such an extensive filmmaking background. That is really cool.
Yeah, it's been my passion since I was very, very young. I was raised in a very strict, limiting home. So traditional media wasn't allowed. So I remember a big deal for me was when I was about 11 years old, Lord of the Rings came out. I wasn't allowed to watch Lord of the Rings, but I did watch the behind the scenes of Lord of the Rings for so many hours on end that I learned filmmaking from that. Like, that was the foundation of all my filmmaking knowledge. I learned so much from that. Dozens of hours of DVD content, from my friend's house that I would go and watch that. I couldn't watch the movie, but so yeah, I was raised on traditional movies. Sound of Music, Mary Poppins, Shirley Temple, a lot of black and white films. So I think not being able to watch traditional media really made me more passionate about filmmaking and stuff. So that was kind of the start of all that.
Well, there wasn't much traditional media available at my age when I was young, so.
Well, you mentioned earlier. I feel like an old man because I feel like I was raised in the 50s. So that was my childhood.
Thomas, I'm from the South, so I get a little nosy. So I got to ask you, how old are you?
I'm only 36. When I was 5 years old, I looked in the mirror and I said, "I guess I'll just be a little man," So I've always felt older. I have 3 kids. My oldest is 12. Yeah, wonderful little family. We're very, very happy. It's all about my kids and my wife. For me, it's just, that's the start of it all. And so the things that I try to do in my life are kind of built around what can I do to spend more time with them? How can I have more meaningful time with them? And so it's important. I'm at that stage, when they're young, and I know that the time's going to fly. So trying to take advantage of it as much as I can at this time. But, at the same time, I'm young and I need to be making money. And so it's hard to not stay home and want to spend more time with them. I need to get off and go to work too. So,
yeah, you got to have the day job. Take care of those kids, especially as they get older and get hungrier. But I'll tell you what, Thomas, I wouldn't trade a day of it, A lot of my work was at home. That's where my home office was. And spending time with children, with my boys and my daughter, that's the most rewarding thing you could ever do. So it's a sacrifice, if you want to call it that, worth doing. But with it comes a little stress.
Yes, knowing that, without you, I mean, you got to pull in that money. What are they going to do without that? It is stressful year after year to think about that. So, I've kind of learned to try to take it day by day and just not try to think too much ahead.
So you started off in a very creative profession, filmmaking and photography. At what point did you start getting analog with paint?
So I started painting when I was 11. My parents, I watched Bob Ross on PBS on Saturday mornings, and so my parents bought me some paints. I probably painted 5 or 6 paintings growing up. Some very big ones, regular-sized ones, but I would really get into it without knowing anything, but never really took hold. The filmmaking side of it was always something that was more constant. Even from a young age, we would always be filming, my friends and I. It kind of took a back seat until a couple years ago. I painted maybe one painting every couple years up until that point. And I don't remember why I made the decision, but I decided to paint a painting a week, no matter what, a couple years ago. And that was a big deal for me. I don't know why. I keep going back. Why did I make that decision? I don't know. I heard once a man can do as he wills, but he cannot will as he wills, or he cannot will what he wills. I don't know why I like painting or why I needed to do this, but I know that it's what I need to do with my life. I can't stop it. It's something I can't control. It's not a calculated decision, It's a decision that was made, and then I'm trying to figure out why I made that decision. But since then, I've painted a painting a week, and without purposefully avoiding traditional education on it. I want to remain ignorant. I do know some basic principles, fat over lean, so forth, but I've tried to just do it myself. And so that's been an interesting self-education. And then about a year ago, I started filming myself and watching back every single painting, every stroke as I'm editing them has been a masterclass for me. To consciously speak about every decision that I'm making as much as possible. I get sidetracked to talk about life and so forth when I'm painting. But with every single edit that I'm making, I'm looking through, oh, shoot, what am I thinking? And so that time analyzing what I've been doing every episode, that's been a big source of growth for me without realizing it. And the filming side of it as well. As I said, I don't know why I decided to start filming beyond I started talking to myself while I was filming and realized it was this little bit of a wasted opportunity if I didn't have the cameras out. So there were probably 3 or 4 episodes before I started where, they were never captured.
So you mentioned you're basically self-taught. You didn't take workshops or anything like that, or watch video courses or anything to develop your artistic ability?
Like 4 hours of video courses just to know I'm doing it basically right. I've picked up on quite a bit more since then through comments on the YouTube channel and other things, but no traditional training.
So you learn from the community as well as yourself.
Right. There's a lot there. There really is.
Since you're a filmmaker and a painter, I don't know if you ever knew the cinematographer by the name of Rodney Charters. He did the show 24.
No. I know that show, but that's interesting.
Yeah, well, he shot over 200 episodes of that show way back in the day. We had a conversation, and he says sometimes people come up and ask him, should I go to film school? And back in those days, it was $50,000, $100,000 to go to film school. And he says, I always told them, and I says, I know people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but the best way to spend that $50,000, if you got $50,000 or you're going in debt for $50,000, go out and make a movie. just start shooting. You're going to learn more by the doing than listening to some lecture and some crazy made up labs in a film school. And I think that principle applies a lot to us becoming painters, being painters. Would you agree with that?
I would. I would say that people have different temperaments, different personalities, and there's something with me where until I make that darn mistake myself, it just doesn't sink in. And so I had to make every stupid mistake imaginable with filmmaking in order to learn on set. That way it really sinks in. That way and you're watching back your stuff, and it does take years too. With painting as well, the thing with painting is it's a perfect connection. It's your hand and the brush and your eyes, and it's all up to you. With filmmaking, I can always blame the actor or the situation. I didn't have enough time to light the shot. But with painting, it's like, no, like it's all on you. And so there is a subtle, you can't just go to school and learn it. You can't just absorb the information. It's the hours of your hand with the brush, and it's a communication that's happening through you. I'm a pianist. It's kind of like playing the piano, where is the thing in your heart coming out, and is it coming out purely, or is it getting blocked with, I should do this, I should do that? And so, yes, with education, it's not always this way, but there's a tendency there for people to siphon through their creative expression through their memories of their schooling. And so in some ways it can block that pure transmission, if you would, of creativity. I know this is weird, but you know what I mean. From your heart through your hand onto the canvas.
I totally agree. I'm going back to the South. One of my clients was a paper mill, and it was neat to see these big old trucks come in with the logs, and they go through this debarking process. And I almost feel like sometimes going to formal training, you're getting debarked. I saved the bark. It adds character to the tree.
And it's inherent in the natural structure of education. Education, the way it's always been, has been a factory. And so a factory needs widgets that are going to be in the same size. And a student that doesn't fit their factory standards is going to be ejected. And that doesn't automatically mean that they're not talented. It doesn't automatically mean they are either. But, Vincent van Gogh couldn't handle school. There's some artists that can't, and there's some that can and who really thrive with it, and I think there's painters as well who want to know that they're painting in the traditional way and they're doing it correctly. Cinematography is like that. In fact, my whole career, I've only tried to, with my cinematography, fit in. There's been no originality in my cinematography. It's, does this look like a standard movie? Does this look like a standard commercial? And so with my clients, with that, it's almost with that art of cinematography, it becomes so subtle because the constraints of the industry are so much on where the camera should be for a traditional scene to be filmed, that what I'm trying to say is that some industries lend better to a lot of standards, a lot of conformity, where you want your work to fit in. But with me, with painting, I see that route, making a painting that would win every kind of competition because it would please the judges enough. I'm just not attracted to that for some reason. I want my work to just be different.
One of the things that really appealed to me about your approach, just talking. Now, normally when I'm painting, I'm not talking. Well, I may talk to myself. Carl, what were you thinking when you did that? But it's not the thoughtful conversations that you have with us as an audience. And what I like about your approach is you're not talking very much about the technique. I mean, you do mention the colors and what brush that you prefer to use and that kind of, but that is not the main focus of your videos. There's this soothing quality of questioning things, expressing how you feel. Was this an intentional direction for you? Did you start off like that, or have you always had that approach to your art?
So years ago, one of my first videos that I was making, I was with a friend and we filmed, and afterwards he said, Thomas, when you got behind that camera, you were a different person. You completely transformed. You were so focused and so different. And I didn't even realize that was happening. So that was kind of the first time in my life where I was like, wait a minute, there's something internal going on? That kind of woke me up, actually.
Did you identify what that was?
Not really, no. Until a couple of years ago, I had an experience, and after that, everything became about the way I felt, That's what matters. This is just kind of something that changed my life, was realizing that when I'm angry, I want to be. It all starts with our internal, just the way we're feeling inside, and everything comes out of that. So instead of reality being out there, it starts in here. And it was completely different, switcheroo. It totally changed my art, changed my life. It was right around the time I started painting. And so for the first time in my life, I was like sensitive to that, and starting my thought processes with, how am I feeling first and foremost? And so me talking on camera is me regulating my internal performance, that I call it. My internal state is what matters. And so I will not put a brushstroke on that canvas if I'm upset, or if I'm just not in the right headspace. That's what matters. It's not what it looks like. That's not something I can control. I can control what I bring to the table. It's kind of a convoluted, difficult thing to discuss, but I think that's where it all starts.
That was interesting that you said you don't want to lay down a brushstroke if you're feeling angry.
If I'm feeling egoic, if I'm thinking about little old me and my problems and who said what to me, and darn it, no one's going to buy this darn thing anyway, and anything about me coming inward, but I have to be in the mindset of I'm painting a self-portrait. I'm painting myself. I'm painting my emotions.
I may look at you do a desert scene or a mountain scene or something like that, but it's interesting to me that you also refer to that as a self-portrait. You're intertwined, a part of that universe, that world that you're painting.
I think that's, yeah. And, you can be very meticulous. You can plan, and you can make so many little teeny micro brushstrokes that you can't even see brushstrokes anymore. And you can make art that's photorealistic. And that is just as profound, but it's different. It serves more of a purpose of being awe-inspiring in and of itself. But with Vincent's work, I pick up on his energy of his brushwork. You can tell the speed. And for some reason, when I'm looking at it, I can kind of go into it and I get a sense of who this guy was. And I think some people can't do that. And I didn't used to be able to do that. I used to hate Van Gogh. I used to think this guy's not talented. It doesn't look realistic. When I was younger, that's how I thought. And now I look at his work and work like that. And I'm just, I can feel the brushwork. And so when I look at my work, I can feel the same way. I can still see the same things. quite a few of my paintings, I might not get a reaction from family or friends when they see it, but I know that's my best painting so far, or that, because of where the brushwork is in terms of the excitement or the energy that was communicated. So,
well, family and friends, as much as we love them, can be complicated when it comes to our art. So sometimes people see what I do. I am interested in what they think. I think it's a natural thing, or maybe it's an unhealthy thing. I'm not sure which. We want approval.
I know.
When we were children, we wanted approval from our parents. And if we didn't get it, it's a scar that you wear for a long time. So we kind of want people to like what we do, but they don't always. It's really kind of interesting, the responses that we get from our family and friends and acquaintances that might happen to see our art. Did you ever have a fear of showing what you produced?
Oh, yeah, I'm terrified. And probably every other video, or maybe even more, 75% of the videos I film, there's a moment where I'm about to delete the footage. I decide I'm going to have to redo this. This is garbage. And then I say, well, you know what? I'm just going to put it out anyway. So I'm not a perfectionist in terms of, I know I can never reach it. I can never reach what I want. So I might as well just keep going. And it all goes back to this commitment of a painting a week. So it's almost like, well, it's not about the painting. It's about doing a painting a week or more. I've done more than that, obviously. But I say obviously because I'm looking at hundreds of paintings in my corner here stacked up. So big ones.
Is your goal to sell them, or is it just something you do?
My goal is to make a painting a week. It's to make a painting a week.
That's it.
That's it. I don't know. I can't control anything else.
That's brilliant. Well, that leads me to the next thing. Your channel is called Painting Therapy, so I think we're getting a clue what that is about in your conversation so far. Tell me a little bit more about what you mean by painting therapy.
Good question. First and foremost, it's my therapy time for me, because I noticed that, before I started the show, that it was working. I just felt fantastic while I was painting. I don't think there are solutions to offer anybody else. You can listen to other people, but it has to come through you. And so the therapy side of it is, hey, watch somebody be an artist. Watch somebody sort of just give up and channel something, so you can see that you can do it too in your daily life. That's the other thing. It's not just about painting. It's about being an artist in your everyday life, which for me means that it's coming out of you. I think I said in an episode recently that love isn't out there to find. It comes out of you. Love is something that emerges from you. And that's what illuminates your world. And so being an artist in your everyday life is like illuminating your world through you, making it matter because it matters to you. The meaning of life is to give life meaning, Viktor Frankl said. So that's kind of the message. Painting can be therapy, but the approach to life, seeing things as a child, being excited about the little things, focusing on the little things without thought, without analyzation, without a goal, just to be there, to focus on whatever catches your attention and to do what you want. And yeah, I think a big pillar of the show is to address just the mental chatter that we have, the constant conversations that we have with ourselves, and how if it gets out of hand, the thinking can control you. Instead of a tool, you're the tool. And so using thinking as a tool when we need to, and setting it aside when we don't need it, when we're ruminating for 20 hours, when almost all of our waking hours we're thinking about little old me and who said this to me and How can I, just all the negative thoughts, setting those aside and just being present and having that be a habit, having that be something that we're not perfect at, but that we can strive for. So that I think of that when I say therapy.
That's interesting that you mentioned it's something that comes from inside. One of the things I see with people oftentimes is they're waiting for someone else to do something that will affect their personal happiness. They're wanting someone to invite them to dinner, as it were, or to do something with them. They're waiting for the other person to make the expression. And the power is within us to take the initiative to invite that person to dinner. It seems like we're waiting for someone else to be the trigger of our own happiness.
I heard something the other day, and it was condensed in my mind to a short phrase of, maybe that thing out there that you're looking for is the thing that's doing the looking. And I think that's true. Whenever we go out into the world searching for happiness, which is what we're always trying to do, we're searching for comfort and happiness. We're searching for something to fill the void. Well, maybe the void is the thing that's doing the searching. And you just need to turn inward and realize that everything you've ever wanted is at the center of you. And if you look for happiness out there in the world, you're never going to find it, because the funny, ironic thing is that the pair of eyes that are looking for that thing, it's behind, it is the eyes. It's behind it, or it's in it. It's nothing, but it's everything. And I've got some ideas of, well, actually no ideas. That's the thing. There's no answer. There's no answer out there. And I was looking for it for so long. The answer is it comes out of you, and it's impossible to put into words. I try to on the show. I know that the painting shows it. I try to show it through the painting because the message I'm trying to share is a little bit above me intellectually. It's difficult to express with words. So I try to show it.
I want to back up a little bit, okay? So you talked about Vincent van Gogh. I've been reading his letters. And I've started at the beginning. I haven't got to the end, but starting at the beginning, you have a man who is highly optimistic. His attention span is relatively short. He is very sensitive to the plight of mankind, not just his, but others. You see, he was working for an art gallery, and you see this sensitivity starting to happen with him about people. And there's this revolutionary train of thought. He loses interest in working in the art gallery, and he wants to do something to help people. So he decides, well, maybe I should be a clergyman. Maybe I should, be a pastor in a church. Of course, he was a dismal student of that too. but his heart, I guess, was in the right. He wanted to help people. He was very sensitive, and I think artists have a sensitivity. Some artists, anyway, have a certain sensitivity like Vincent van Gogh did. It's going to be interesting to see how that story develops, because he used a lot of words to describe his feelings. And I think of that when I watch your video. You use a lot of meaningful words to describe what you're thinking at that moment. And I find that helpful. I think it's a really good thing. I just compared you to Vincent van Gogh. I hope you don't take offense to that.
I just got to say his life is a lot like mine. His mental progression of what happened, his commitment to the church, his going to the Borinage, and becoming disillusioned with the structure and the authority. And then breaking out of that and realizing that he was his own authority. I think people in his circle probably thought it was blasphemous that he painted himself as Jesus, but I think that really gives a sense of where he had progressed in terms of where he was before. And then in the Bornage as well, he's covered in soot and he's helping out the poor. And people said there that he was like this incredible figure that came and was helping people out. But yeah, his story, not his talent. Van Gogh is very, very special. But his mental state and what was happening to him, man, I think a lot of artists find a lot of comfort in his troubles because we can relate so well to his words. We have words and they've become clinical. In Vincent's time, they weren't as they were more artistic. I've been to many therapists, and putting my problems in terms of depression, anxiety, ADHD, what are these? These are clinical terms. But really, what is it? I'm incredibly sensitive. I have big emotions. I'll tear up at the smallest little things. Constantly on my mind is, what is it all about? Searching for something, and I've had to come to peace with that will never stop, and what that is. But I've dealt with depression for a very, very long time. Since I can remember, I've always just been a little bit dissatisfied with the state of things. I think that's what it comes down to. I said it on a show recently, there's this romantic idea that I wish was true of a little boy playing in a tree. And then when he falls from that branch, instead of just falling to the ground to his death, the tree catches him. A limb comes to his safety. I think that's the core of like everything for me. It's like a little bit of being upset with reality, trying to make peace with it, like wrestling with that. And so when I paint nature, I'm painting an indifference that terrifies me, and it challenges my ego. It challenges my desire to stay alive and to be important and to be remembered and for my life to have meaning. But when I look out at nature, it's like, isn't this meaning enough? Maybe you have it all wrong. Maybe the reason why you're struggling is because you see yourself as a lone individual battling the cold universe, battling the cold, indifferent nature. So I think, anyway, that's kind of where my dissatisfaction arises from. But as Albert Camus said, I do get comfort in the fact that you can look at your jailers, or you're in prison. You're looking at your prison guards and you're laughing because they want you to be sad. So you can have spite, and with spite, raise your head high and choose to see the indifference of that universe, to see the coldness of it, that it doesn't care if you live or die in a sense, and to laugh. That is the only answer I've come to so far. And I don't think there is much else. Yeah, that's kind of wraps up the whole depression thing for me, which is constant. I never, as soon as I wake up, it's there. I just have to make peace with it. But, and by the way, whenever anyone opens up about this, everyone else is always like, yeah, me too. Everyone's having a hard time out there, and we always think it's just us, and we always think that we're alone. Some people have a difficult time even understanding what they're feeling, and so it comes out as intense anger, comes out as self-destructive habits and so forth. And it all stems from this unease, dissatisfaction, this intense idea that we want something that we don't have. And so we go out into the world and we try to get it, and we try to fill that void. We try to make ourselves happy. And we do that our whole lives, and it never happens. And then before we die, at some point, we have to lose everything. We lose it all at some point. Anyway.
So painting has been an effective tool to help you with this. That's why you call it, you mentioned earlier, is painting therapy for you. However, have you ever gotten some feedback that really just touched your heart about someone who listened and watched your videos and just said, gosh, this is just what I needed to hear. Even though it's therapy for you, they took it personally.
I get those comments every day, and I read them, and I appreciate them. And unfortunately, they do nothing for me in terms of alleviating my personal suffering. They don't make me a better artist. I really appreciate those, but it doesn't get through to me. And it's really proven to me early on here that I'm not going to achieve anything through my art that will fulfill me beyond the time I spend doing the art. Selling it, I've had zero satisfaction. I mean, on a certain level, yay. But at the same time, I step in front of that canvas.
It's a dopamine hit for the moment.
Yeah, it's like, yay, it comes and goes. Same with those comments. And I wish it penetrated me more. Maybe some other people it could. Maybe some other people it could. And those comments do buoy me up as I'm about to step in front of the camera. Just thinking about those people, I'm like, wow, that's why I'm doing this. So it does help me keep going, or have, like, I'm going to do this for them today. And then it gets me in that right headspace. But, yeah, selling art and people appreciating it doesn't fulfill anything in me. You'd think it would. And that's been a surprise. That's why I'm bringing it up. It's been a surprise that hasn't fulfilled me. That being said, I want those to keep coming. Hearing that people have said, yeah, like, I started crying 20 minutes into your episode and I couldn't stop, and something clicked, you know? But there is no, wow, how great of me of doing this for somebody. It's like,
but I wouldn't expect that. I mean, an expression of gratitude is that. There's no expectation of return from you or anyone else. It's just thank you. That expression of gratitude, but it's just there. This is a visceral response to what you're doing. You're having an impact on people, whether you realize it or not. You know, it's happening because you put it out there.
And I think all of us, man, what an opportunity we have. I mean, I don't even get me started on the state of our technological world and how much YouTube and social media is uncontrollable, and I have to hop on this platform. Darn it, I wish there was another way to get my message out there besides bowing to the YouTube gods. But that being said, we are in a time when anyone can do this and they can be vulnerable, and I think people need this. We have all the plastic crap we need in this world. We have an Uber that can arrive with just a tap, food that can come to us. What about the emotional things? We're going to get that through people. So let's be real. Let's share stuff. Let's use the internet for what it can be good for, us being real and vulnerable, which you're doing here, and I really appreciate it. So,
well, I appreciate you being on the show myself. I'm getting to know you a little bit better. I mean, it'd be better if you were in my studio or whatever, face to face. I think that's missing in a lot of life, is just that face to face interaction. Reading the body language and just being there. Sitting around the dinner table culture is gone. We, went to a restaurant yesterday, and it seems like everybody had some kind of eye device out on the table.
I think that you're hitting on something. We're trying to share things on the internet through this way that actually have a good impact, and we can do that by being ourselves. But yeah, it sure has affected our society. I mean, I'm just old enough to have been raised without all that and to have seen a childhood without it, and man, things are better in other ways too, though. So
yeah, I'm not a Luddite. I'm glad that there's a YouTube out there that I can go, as long as I'm selective. I'm not doom scrolling, but I'm looking for something. Of course, doom scrolling's okay sometimes. Happy accidents like finding your channel was a fun thing to happen. But I would like to wrap up with a little bit more discussion about your art, the positive aspects of it. One thing that you mentioned is that our artistic mindset can have a positive effect, or has an effect, on our daily lives. Can you give me an example of that? What do you mean by that?
Well, just our eyes focus on things, and our minds focus on things. And like, I think it's Thoreau with his, was it Walden Pond with the paths? He found himself taking the same path every day to the river or to the pond, and then consciously thought, I'm going to walk a different way, so I don't make one path and experience one reality. And so in my life, I have found myself, when I'm driving around, focusing on, look at that trash, look at that construction, look at this strip mall with all the businesses closed down, look at that big, I don't know, whatever it is, something to complain about. And all I see is the sad things in life. But if we can just look at new things, look at the tree, look at the light, the way it's reflecting, look at the sky, the clouds. It's very simple, but when we can just look at different things that we don't really know much about, our mind doesn't really know what to do with it. We're not filtering it through our experience. We're just observing, and that can be uncomfortable for the ego. Being an artist in our everyday life, for me, means that we're purposefully focusing on what we want to, and that when we focus on it, we're not judging it. We're not trying to form a personal opinion about it. We're not trying to do anything with it. We're just looking and being present. It's that feeling you get when you look at the Grand Canyon for the first time. It's so incredible. Your mind stops for a few seconds, and then you're brought back into reality when you notice someone stepping in front of you to take a photo, and you start seeing the people around you, and it's just, but those few seconds you were looking, imagine if you could be like that all the time, or as much as possible. And so just getting into the habit of looking at the light and instead of the things that bring you pain. We don't have to ignore the things around us, but we can control what we focus on. I think that's what it comes down to.
What are you inspired to paint? How do you choose what you want to paint?
I think to choose what I want to paint, it's always different every single time. I know that it's 1,000 to 1 for for the shots that I see that I don't take purposefully. I see them all the time. I put frames around everything in my mind. I'm looking around and I find a painting and I look at it and then I let it go. Sometimes if I'm at the park and my kids are playing, I'll sketch something, or sometimes I'll take a series of photos and then kind of sketch something later. Sometimes go out and paint. But it's really just what attracts me. And then the other thing is, it's not just looking at nature. It's looking at nature and finding an imagination in it. It's not just a still object. Like when I'm painting, some cactuses. When I'm painting cactus, I think of them as a family of cactus. They all have different personalities. So what's the idea that we're really painting? It's taking nature plus your unique kind of way of seeing it and imagining it with your childlike wonder. And that doesn't exactly have to come across in the finished thing. People are going to take away whatever they want to. But having those ideas of... And there's so many little ideas in a painting. Like, wow, the grass in this part, it's warm and it's bright and it represents hope. You know, I don't exactly even say those things on the show, but everything represents something to me that's higher and more just pure. And but sometimes with the paintings, there is sort of a little bit of a statement on nature or our humanity's relationship with it and so forth. My favorite place, and I don't paint it often, but I get most of my ideas come with walks around my neighborhood. I live in a neighborhood that is, I'm in Arizona, but it's very green. We have got a lot of trees and it's kind of enclosed. And so I go on walks there multiple times a day. And that's my time when I really soak in mostly the trees and mostly pine trees. And I don't know why. I'm looking at pine trees and clouds and shadows and bright grass. So that's all it is for me.
Those walks are wonderful. My wife and I do that. I think it was I can't remember who came up with the term. I don't know if it was Clyde Aspavig or his wife, but they came up with a term. It was called land snorkeling. So I'm the world's slowest walker or hiker because I want to look at everything. I'm crazy like that. But they came up with that term, land snorkeling, and I thought, that's me. I like to snorkel as I walk or hike or go someplace. I love looking at even the little things.
So that's what it is. That's the artistic spirit. That's what it is in our everyday life. And we know, you can tell, it's, and that doesn't mean you're not an oil painter or an artist if you don't have that, but some people have that. And it can be annoying for some people around us. My family, stop talking about the clouds. Stop, everybody, stop, look. Look at the sky. It's orange.
We're hopeless.
Yeah.
We're just hopeless. Thomas, where can people find out more about you and your art?
Just YouTube, search Thomas Windsor. I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and then there's thomaswindsorstudio.com, where I've got some paintings up for sale. But yeah, hey, when you're on YouTube and if I come up, just, once in a while, if you want some peace and some serenity, you can put me on. Also, people say that they like to put me on in the background when they're working on their own project or sketching or doing whatever, just to have someone there. So I like that, and all of those things I did not anticipate, making these. People are painting along as well.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah. So yeah, that's people can just go on YouTube.
They're not even painting what you're painting. They're just painting, right?
They're just painting. I'm just there along with them. So yeah.
So Thomas, I got to show you something here.
Oh, okay.
I'm a person that has always said I can't listen to words as I paint.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I can't listen to words. You see this painting behind me?
Yeah.
I painted that listening to you.
What?
It's the first time I've ever done that in my life.
No way.
Is listen to words while I paint.
That's great.
I had to be careful about mixing colors because you'd mention a certain color, and no, I can't do that. That's not what I need for that scene.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that makes me so happy. That's awesome.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to talk with you. I think we just scratched the surface here, man. I'd like to talk to you again sometime.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, thanks for being on The Artful Painter today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm grateful to Thomas Windsor for taking the time to talk with me and allowing me to share this conversation with you here on The Artful Painter. It was just a really thought-provoking conversation. I love these kind of conversations. It's true, we didn't talk a lot about technique or materials or anything like that. We got really deep, and I appreciated his candor. I love that when a person reveals what's in their heart. They become vulnerable, and that was evident in this discussion. I really appreciated, too, something he said. It may seem like a little thing, but he mentioned how when he was younger, he did not like Vincent van Gogh. But then later in life, he came to love his work. The vibrancy of Vincent van Gogh's work, his brushstrokes, his color, all of those things were just things that inspire him now. And I like that. It's okay. It's okay to change one's mind. I reserve the right to change my mind. Things that I didn't like years ago, I love today. And things that I love today, in time, they may fall out of favor with me. But that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And I appreciated a conversation that I had with an artist. I don't know if appreciate is the right word. It was a shocking conversation. It started off okay. This person said that the only valid form of art, the only true art, is traditional art. Okay, that's his opinion. And traditional art is quite beautiful, and it is inspiring. Nothing wrong with that. But where this person crossed the line with me, he continued, if he just stopped talking at that moment, I'd have been okay. I may not have agreed with him, but I would have still respected him, and it would have been okay. It's okay. It's okay to have an opinion. I'm an opinionated person. I admit it. It's in my blood, okay? But anyway, he didn't stop talking. He went on to say that he just couldn't understand people who loved Vincent van Gogh's work. He said that Vincent van Gogh was incompetent. He was not a real artist. His artwork just stunk. He had no talent. Okay, still, that's a little farther than I would have liked to have gone, but if he had stopped right there, I would have still been okay. But then he said, anyone who likes Vincent van Gogh's work is stupid, ignorant, and uneducated. He crossed the line. You know, you don't call somebody stupid, ignorant, and uneducated because they like something that you don't like. But let's face it, the Impressionists opened up a whole world of expression that delights millions of people, myself included. That is what was so revolutionary about the Impressionists. That was what was so revolutionary about Vincent van Gogh. He may have had his troubles. He did have his troubles. But he was still able to convey something that resonates with our hearts and minds to this day. I think about some traditional art. There are some that are quite amazing. I think Thomas Moran and Albert Bierstadt falls into this category of traditional art. Their art is stunning. To see it in person is an extraordinary experience. And they do convey emotion in their traditional approach to art. But on the other hand, there are traditional arts. I think traditional art was also a form of illustration because photography didn't exist in those days. And so they would be commissioned to portray allegorical situations, historical situations, biblical scenes and situations. I am inspired by some traditional art, but I find exuberance in the way painters express themselves today. The Impressionist and the modern day Impressionist. And so that's what I see in Thomas Windsor's work. There, even though he is battling, as he candidly said, depression, he wakes up with it. It's with him 24/7. But yet he can still pick up a paintbrush, and from the heart to his hand to the brush, he is able to express himself in a way that we delight in when we see it. It brings him pleasure as he paints it, and it brings us pleasure to see the end result. We feel his emotions in that. Art is no longer simply being a substitute for a camera. It is an expression. And so that's what I like about that. But I feel sad for these people who say traditional art is the true art. And anyone that likes Vincent van Gogh or the other Impressionists for that matter, they're stupid, ignorant, and uneducated. What a sad life. What a miserable life those people lead to feel that way. So what I want you to do, if you want to, it's not my place to tell you what to do, but I'm going to give you a suggestion. How about that? I want you to pick up a brush or a pencil or a marker, whatever your favorite art-making tool is, and wield it. Swing it around with exuberance. Convey your joy of painting. My name is Carl Olson, and I'll see you in the next edition of The Artful Painter, whenever that is.
And we're getting a picture on the TV.